G'day, I'm Matt from Green and Gold Rugby, and welcome to a little bit of analysis from the Wales vs Australia game from the weekend. Let's start with the biggest talking point from the whole game, which has got to be the Australian scrum. Now, there's been a number of interesting theories as to why the scrum fell apart on the weekend. First is, as we saw in a couple of the scrums at least, that the back row was coming up too early. The second was a really interesting theory that's come from a piece from a website called sarugby.com, which is that Australian locks, by a matter of technique, don't bind tightly enough, and that's why we're not getting enough power through the scrum. And the third is that, as usual, something's been going wrong in the front row, and there's a number of different theories as to what could be going wrong there. But when I had to look back, and as you're going to be able to do now, have a look back over the key scrums from the match, what I think you'll be able to see is that yes, there is a little bit of number one. I can't really spot a whole lot of number two, and there is a hell of a lot of number three that's going on. So let's now have a look at those scrums and see if we can spot where all this problem came from on the weekend. Here's the first scrum of the whole match, and even though it's reset, it's vital because it really sets the tone. Notice how, when on engagement, Wales has won the hit, but it's also managing to get a wheel on, and it's actually putting the wheel on through the loose head side of the scrum. Here's the next scrum, and this is in fact a penalty to Wales. You can't really see what goes on because it happens so quickly and from this camera angle, but what Wayne Barnes explains afterwards is that he saw Ben Alexander's body shape fold. An article during the week, Stephen Moore, the Australian hooker, said that these first two scrums really set a tone that then Wayne Barnes refereed to for the rest of the match, and here you can see exactly where that came from. So here's the next Welsh penalty, and the way that this scrum goes is going to set the tone and the pattern for the rest of the game. Notice that even before the ball's in, they've got a wheel going on their loose head side of the scrum. A little bit unusual because it's moving away from their backs. Notice here also how our back row have started to pop out the back, which can't be helping things. But now have a look at where this power comes from the Welsh scrum. They straighten it through their Adam Jones, which is their tight head prop, and they're going to drive on through and splinter the Wallaby pack. Here's the next example, and it's actually on our own ball. But here again you see this pattern occurring. So the Welsh already got the wheel going up through their loose head prop, and now watch the power that's going to come on through their tight head side. And look at them shear this scrum away. This is a perfect picture because it shows you how the whole Welsh tight five is now borne down upon Ben Alexander and maybe Rocky Elsom. Here's the next Welsh penalty. You see it in real time here, which isn't a great angle, but when you see it in the next angle in slow motion, again, you can see the wheel was already happened up through the loose head side. And now watch the power come in from the far side of the scrum from Adam Jones, who's going to splinter straight through the hooker and then through Ben Alexander. For this scrum, it's now the second half, and in it, the Welsh are really well and truly on top. They're not needing to do the loose head wheel. Ben Alexander's body shape has completely gone to the point where Chisholm can't even bind in the scrum, and the Welsh basically just power through. They do focus in a little bit between Robinson and Faianga, but you can see that the whole scrum disintegrates under that pressure. Penalty here, this time purely on Ben Alexander for folding. Here are the scrums leading up to the Welsh try now. Look at the angle here, it's perfect. You can see Adam Jones, and look at his number 6, really putting the pressure on and driving him and pushing in on Ben Robinson and Julia Edmonds now, who's at hooker. The Australian scrum tries to scrabble with that, but what Wayne Barnes sees is them collapse then on the tight head side. Same thing here, Welsh managed to put the drive on, it's pushing straight over onto Slipper's side, and the penalty comes. Here's the scrum that the Welsh try actually comes from. And actually, if you look at the Australian pack, you can see how it's trying to stay square, but the Welsh scrum has completely walked around, and actually you're going to see them go through the 90 here to score it. But by this stage, all Wayne Barnes is seeing is strong Welsh scrum dominance, and they're getting rewarded. How different it was only a year ago. Here, in one of the first scrums of the game, you see that the penalty goes to Australia for boring in from Wales. And then look at the power that the Australian pack manages to put through for the rest of the game, winning the hit, but also then getting those second shoves, and in this case, winning a penalty on the Welsh own ball. And even with a ball that was at 90 degrees. The fix, well, I'm obviously no international scrum coach, but it would seem to me a couple of things are pretty obvious. One is that the pack needs to work as a whole, especially in those first engagements, to get some dominance, to get some go forward, to show that it's not us on the back foot the whole time. The second one, well, that's going to be a tougher one, because it looks to me that teams have spotted that there's a real weak link at hooker and at tight head prop for Australia, and they're going to really target that. The All Blacks did it back in Hong Kong, and the Welsh basically based their whole scrum strategy about it on the weekend and how well it worked. Something a little more positive now, and that's to have a look at somebody who's been playing an absolute belter, Nathan Sharpe. The big boggle-eyed bastard has had some great runs of late, even though he's getting on a bit. Here he is having a digital rectal exam from Mal Baxter, and obviously a cold morning in training a couple of years ago. But he's really at his peak form at the moment. In the Tri-Nations this year, Sharpe led the whole team, either by minutes or just overall, whichever way you looked at it. The whole team of forwards in both the number of carries that he made and the number of dominant tackles that he made throughout the Tri-Nations. I'd wager to say actually that the Australian pack is one injury to Nathan Sharpe away from a complete disaster at the moment. He really is the go-forward engine for the team. He's also the line-out master, and actually on the weekend, not only did he take 2 balls in the line-out for the Wallabies, he also stole 2 from Wales, and we saw in one of those Tri-Nations games when he was subbed out how the whole line-out really fell apart. So really it's hats off to Sharpe, who's really putting in, I think, some of the best effort he's ever had in a green and gold jumper.
Wales. But there is time. Got the pass away somehow, and there's another offload from...
Finally, there's been a lot of discussion about James O'Connor. Is he really a winger or not? But on the weekend he showed us something that I hadn't really seen or expected, which was the pace that he could put on. Watch him here burn Shane Williams. Not a guy who's any slouch for pace himself.
Bill! Curtly Bill will score!